Today's episode is brought to you by the Positively Productive Toolkit, a collection of workbooks that guide you through self-discovery and self-awareness. These self-guided workbooks, which include links to assessments, can be completed in minutes. Request this free resource and others at the positivelyproductive.com/resources page.
I recognize that, especially with chronic illness, there are so many days, so many times when you feel like you can't engage with anything, and all of this is just a bunch of blah, blah, blah to you. But remember that you won't always feel that way. You will feel better one day, and then these things are going to be there waiting for you.
You're listening to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and today we're covering a good bit of self-care ground with Amber Tresca, an advocate and activist in the chronic illness community. She's an inflammatory bowel disease, referred to as IBD patient, who was diagnosed in 1989 at the age of 16 and has undergone surgery since then, so she lives with it and gets it. Her goal is to help patients better understand the disease, and because she's constantly interacting with them, she knows how those with chronic illness need to adapt their schedules and live their lives. When we talked about this episode on self-care specifically for those with chronic illness, she was adamant that her advice help you save time and money. It turns out her entire list is actually zero cost, and I cannot wait for you to hear her perspective and advice. I was honored to be on Amber's podcast, and even more so that my episode is one of her most downloaded. The topic is decluttering your life with chronic illness, and I'll link to it in the show notes if you'd like to check it out. We talk a bit about decluttering today, so I'll encourage you to go to the podcast page of the positivelyproductive.com website and click on the declutter playlist for more episodes and advice on dealing with all of life's clutter, from physical to digital to mental and more, many of which we touch upon today. While you're there, be sure to check out the self-care and stress management playlists too. Those episodes complement our conversation today and include an episode on the vagus nerve, which Amber specifically mentions. I've also added a link in the show notes to an episode from the first season of the podcast about understanding chronic illness. The impact of living with chronic illness is one that touches us all, whether we're dealing with it ourselves or trying to support those we love. And self-care, done the right way, has an important place in our lives to help us with recovery, resilience, and a future where thriving is an option. Without further ado, let's join Amber for some self-care inspiration. Amber, welcome to the Positively Living podcast. I am beyond delighted to have you here. I have been on your podcast. I am thrilled to invite you to mine, and I cannot wait to dig into this topic. Before we get into it, please tell us a bit about who you are and what makes you light up.
Lisa, I'm so excited. I'm so appreciative of your platform and that you invited me to come on. It really is such a privilege. So thank you for letting me natter with you for a while. I am a writer and editor and patient activist, and that is because in the long, long ago, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which is a form of inflammatory bowel disease. And so I have built a platform about IBD around helping people understand these diseases and how they can live a better life with them. And currently, I would say what is lighting me up is, and it's such a simple thing, but it is getting outside. That has really been my jam for like the past 6 months or so, is literally taking a break, even 5 minutes, and just stepping outside to get some sun on my face. And that's pretty much how I've been trying to light my way.
And it's such good advice. I mean, there's been so many conversations we've even had on the podcast about what nature can do for you, what the green out there can do for you. And I have to say that living in the area that I do, which is New York State, it feels like forever until we get to that springtime and to that weather where we can, comfortably be outside and suddenly we're in summer and like, what happened? It is a wonderful thing to be able to be out in nature, and I think it resets our nervous system, and that's probably one of the things we're gonna dig into today, I'm sure. Is ways to do that. It's so important for what we are. Let's dig into the topic du jour here, but I think we should set the scene. So let's start first with this idea of chronic illness. You have a very specific one. Let's talk a bit about chronic illness, what exactly that is, and what it means for those who have it. What do we need to know about it, especially if it's something that we don't have?
Coming at it from the medical writer part of my brain, a chronic illness versus an acute illness. So, for instance, you get the flu, that's acute. You're going to get it, it's going to be bad, and then it's going to get better and it's going to go away. A chronic illness is just that, it's chronic. It never does go away. And in my space, in digestive disease and specifically inflammatory bowel diseases, ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, we call it relapsing remitting. So you're well or somewhat well for a time and hopefully in active remission, which would be the cessation of your symptoms, right? So you're doing great. And then some point later, the symptoms come back. And then this is a cycle that repeats itself. Now, hopefully you can get into deep remission in the IBD space. That's a term that we use, that maybe it goes on for months or years, hopefully. But some people don't really ever achieve that. And so it is a cycle of that feeling well, finding a treatment that works, and then symptoms come back and you're dealing with a flare-up. And a flare-up, sometimes people talk about it like, oh, I had a flare-up today. But that's not really what a flare-up is. A flare-up is something that is long-term consistent. It might necessitate a change in treatment, whatever that looks like, lifestyle changes or prescription medication or over-the-counter medication, and that you need to get the illness under control again. And in IBD, it's inflammation. So it's inflammation that mostly is centered on your digestive system, but it actually attacks almost every system in your body, or it can. Your eyes, your skin, your joints. So it really can be a full body condition. But in the broader sense, a chronic illness is something that is probably with you for life, unfortunately, needs to be treated. Usually there's things that you do every single day to treat it. And well-meaning, lovely people around you will say, oh, are you doing better? Maybe for a time, but the disease is something that needs to be managed at all times. Otherwise, it may flare up again. So hopefully that's a good description of it.
Yeah, that actually really helps. And also some points in there that were informative to me too is the idea that you can have one that can affect far greater aspects like of your body. For example, the idea that IBD, you would think it is, contained to the digestive, but the idea that it can affect so many parts of your body is it's just such an important reminder of how much overlap we might have, especially if you have inflammation in other ways. Or I'm thinking about like over time, I've had a lot of, I don't know that I would call it a chronic illness, but I've had a lot of chronic pain. I've had herniations and things like that. I've had a lot of physical therapy. I don't think I'll ever be without like physical therapy or chiropractic adjustment if I want to thrive. But to your point, the idea with the chronic illness is that we're dealing with something that is long term, a long game. It's something that you live with and not like you fix it and it goes away.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you get to a point where you're managing it
Right.
So I use that term managing because if you stop managing it, it might come back to you and affect you in other ways. And when I was diagnosed, we didn't think about it in this way that IBD is a progressive disease. With ulcerative colitis, it may start with a small part of your digestive system, but then it tends to start creeping up. And in Crohn's disease, same thing, it attacks different parts of your digestive system. And it can be anywhere from the mouth all the way through. So part of it is that you can never have an expectation of what it's going to throw at you because it could literally go anywhere and you're just not sure. And so that's part of how it can be so destabilizing emotionally to have these diseases is because you're never quite sure what's going to happen next. And then that's also something that I cover on my show on About IBD a lot is because every single person's journey, we're diagnosed with the same thing or something similar, but every person's journey is completely different.
I think that's so important too. So the idea that, you are managing and it can potentially be different kinds of symptoms that, cause all manner of problems, pain and discomfort. And there's so many different things. And of course, you cover a lot of those details. But the idea that you cannot anticipate what's going to happen, that you are trying to manage what you can with what you have. I remember years ago, my sister-in-law, who was very active in the autism community, said, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism.
100%. And then in the chronic illness space, there's lots of things that overlap. The way it affects our bodies, whatever we've got going on is slightly different, but it affects our relationships, our careers, our mental health. So there's so much of that overlap and that common ground, which is helpful when we're talking about activism because we can also, it's not just that I'm out there and advocate at home with local legislators, but I also go to DC at least once a year, hopefully more since the pandemic. It's been a little sketchier. But I am there giving my experience, which is with IBD, but I'm there on behalf of everyone that lives with a chronic illness because we face many of the same emotional and financial challenges. And so, together in numbers, we can make better things happen for all of us.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation. Not only, I'm sure that a large percentage of my listeners deal with some form of chronic illness. I mean, it is highly prevalent or know someone who does. And that's the whole point, right? Is that we have this ripple effect and we have this situation where we are potentially caregivers, or at the very least, we can be proper advocates for those that we love, that we can have a better understanding. And the more that we can have this conversation, the more the positive ripple effect happens. So with that in mind, understanding it and then connecting to the commonality here and the mental part of it, the mental and emotional, what we're doing, and the topic of the day, right, of talking about self-care and what that actually means, especially and specifically in this context, is so important because that, I believe, is one of those crossovers that it applies universally.
Yeah. And self-care, for people with chronic illness can take on like a huge spectrum. But also, I think at the heart of it is always that your self-care is managing that condition. So a lot of things that you're going to do throughout your life are in service of managing that condition. And the people that live with you, your caregivers or care partners, will understand that on a different level than other people do. But I would also say, like, my friends, they're my care partners. They help me out. They can scout out the bathroom or whatever for me in a moment's notice. So almost everybody around you becomes a care partner in some fashion. So chronic illness literally touches everybody, even if you think that it doesn't. I can almost guarantee that it does.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I really like that phrase. I want to do the auditory highlight of that, right? So that we take that away, whether or not you need to seek one out or you would like to be one, the idea of a care partner. And that's, in a way, it's advocating for someone. Like, I know that for those that have certain allergies, right? Certain food intolerances and requirements and stuff like that. I'm often, I guess it would be a care partner where I'm scoping out menus and I'm able to tell them where we can go to have a gluten-free meal or things like that. And it's, for me, that feels like a simple thing where I'm like, we have this great Mexican restaurant down the road, and it is like, it's such an awesome choice, and it's something everybody can enjoy. And I know that I can bring friends there and we can have a great time. That felt easy for me, but I'm sure for them it was very meaningful.
It's exceptionally meaningful to be seen and understood in that way and have somebody who cares for you enough that they're willing to do something that, yeah, doesn't seem, of course, I would find a restaurant that would accommodate your allergies or your nutritional needs. Of course, I would do that for you. But as a person who myself has been living with a chronic illness for a long time, there's also plenty of people out there that would not take that extra step. So when we get it, it is really, really so very meaningful.
To that point about self-care, and you do probably feel like I have to figure this out. So again, I would hope that this conversation will encourage us all to work together as a team. But we are coming from the perspective of how can we support you as someone with a chronic illness in stepping into self-care? And you already gave us a wonderful definition of it in this context that I think is so important, is basically that it is in service of managing whatever condition you have. With that, when you define self-care, you're saying that. Is there anything else that you want us to think about when it comes to self-care? And then we can dive right into your ideas and your perspective on this.
Yeah, I have two things when I think about self care, and I did not come up with either of these independently. It's from listening to others, listening to podcasts, reading. The first is that we have to be careful when we discuss self care because when you say that, people tend to automatically think of go and get your nails done, right? Take a bath or other things, go shopping, things where you're spending money or things that might not be accessible to everyone. So we want to step out of that idea of self-care. We want self-care that is accessible to everybody. And my second idea when thinking about self care is that in chronic illness, you're doing things in service of managing the condition, okay? And also that you want to think about it in terms of your future self. So thinking of your future self as your best friend and somebody that you want to take care of. And your future self could be 5 minutes from now, but it could be a week from now. It could be a year from now. And so, what are you doing today in service of your future self that will help her in her journey? Those are the things that I think about really at the core of self care.
That's a great question for us to take with us today. But starting with number one, being careful of the context. Thank you so much for saying that. That definitely reiterates a lot of conversations we've had on the podcast. I'll be attaching a link to a playlist on different self-care conversations that we've had. And the distinction that I make is there's a distinction between what we would consider self-care and whatever that means to you. It could mean being in service to managing this condition. It could be calming our nervous system because we are, well, chronic stress, dealing with different ways in which we are taking care of our needs versus this idea of pampering,
Yeah.
which can overlap. I'm the first to say that sitting in a chair and getting a pedicure, I mean, not only am I ready for sandal weather, yeehaw, but there's some massage, there's some calming, there's a lot of good things happening that can definitely overlap. But I think that you're right that the conversation becomes a little flippant about what that actually means, because then you're like, self-care is getting your nails done? Like, what is that? You need that? And it's like, okay, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're taking one thing and you're generalizing it to mean all of the self-care that we're talking about, and that may not be it. For me, getting to the doctor myself and not just for my family, as a mom, as a caregiver, that is self-care. So sometimes it's not necessarily the fun stuff. It doesn't always have to be a cost. I really appreciate that you said that. And then getting into the sometimes it's the stuff we have to do and need to do. Oh, that taps right into this discussion of future self. I love that because we talk about that in the context of productivity too, where if we can start thinking, what can I do right now that is going to make the future for me, 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years, whatever, better somehow. That's where things like decluttering, which I know is not fun, or getting your stuff set out the night before when you're tired, but you're priming your productivity. And in this case, you're priming your health. You're making your situation better. You're giving yourself maybe more of a chance to thrive.
Absolutely. And I think when you put it and have that as your core, it helps. At least it helps me. Because there's things I was just talking with my husband about meal prepping and meal planning, and nothing makes me roll my eyes and stomp my feet more. But that is something that I can do for my future self. So if I make those overnight oats and they're in the refrigerator, I have a week's worth of breakfasts there, and then I will actually eat breakfast, and then I will be a nicer person.
And you'll eat breakfast that agrees with you, that works for you.
100%. And then I'm not grabbing a donut on my way to physical therapy or whatever I'm doing that day, which is maybe not the best. So it's all of these things, they all fit in together. But for me, the things that I don't want to do, because self-care is sometimes things that I don't want to do, I have to remember I'm doing it for future Amber.
Sometimes things I don't want to do. Truer words were never spoken. But it's so true. And sometimes that will happen. And raise your hand if you're with me, okay? And then you do it and you're like, oh, that was awesome. And
Yes.
what's in my brain right now? Thank you so much for asking. Exercise. Exercise is a great
Yes.
example where I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do it. And then I do it and
No.
I'm like, that was the best thing ever. And
Yeah. I enjoy some exercise, weightlifting. Oh my gosh. I find it so boring. I really have to pull myself through it. And then all my physical therapy exercises, which Lisa, I know you are intimately aware of those things. I don't want to do those weird things that my physical therapist gave me to do. They're odd, right? They seem weird. But when I do them, I feel better. Shocker. And then also the next time I see my physical therapist, I get to tell her that I did her exercises and I get
that
my little gold
accountability.
star.
Yeah. Go ahead and praise me. I did
Yes.
it.
Yeah. Pat me on the back. Where is my gold star?
Exactly. I will give you a gold star. I will send you anytime. You just let me know. I will send you the gold stars. That's what I'm here for. Okay, yes, I love that. So this idea of, being careful about the context, understanding that oftentimes it's the thing I don't want to do, and you are looking at your future self and saying, "Hey girl, how can I help you?" as opposed to getting in your way. So,
Wow.
you've already given an example of meal planning. I mentioned, doctor's visits and kind of staying on top of that. I'm sure you have others on the list with ideas that, again, are not necessarily something that will break the bank either, that are accessible to us. And our energy, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. And most of the things that I have come to think of as self-care are no cost or low cost, considering that your time is also a cost. That is something that we have to prioritize, especially people living with chronic illness. I don't have time for a lot of mess. So
That's how I feel most. I don't have time for this.
I don't have time for so many things, but I have so many ideas, and I made a list before I jumped on with you today, and I put them in order of what I thought were the sort of easiest to do to the more complex.
Love that.
So the first thing on my list for self-care is to drink a glass of water. That is self-care. Drink a glass of water.
I just took a sip of my water.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hydrate. So simple.
Hydrate. It is, but you got a headache, you're not feeling so great, something is irritating you, maybe try drinking a glass of water first and see how you feel afterward. And then another low cost or hopefully no cost thing is when you are not feeling your best is to listen to a favorite song. Lisa, I know that's going to resonate with you, but stop what you're doing. What's your favorite song or a favorite song? Mine changes from day to day. So listen to it. Is it something that you want to sing along with, as I often do? Because that stimulates your vagus nerve and that can help you break out of a spiral, something like that, or just listening to it. I find that really helpful.
Yay. Thank you so much. And I will be linking to the episode I did about this in the show notes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm all about the playlist. We have a playlist for the podcast where you mention songs that like lift your spirits. And I have multiple playlists now, so I can hop on Spotify and like just pick anything that's really calling to me. But you're right. It's such a simple thing to do. And now that we have access on our fingertips, we don't even have to have a subscription because literally you could even go on YouTube, and now it's with the video, but it doesn't matter. You can find a way to find that song.
And if your favorite song isn't on there, maybe you can find your second favorite song. And then another one, which is, has been my go-to for the past several months is go outside. Go outside. Now, this is another one that not everyone lives in a space where they can just walk outside and access some grass. Okay. So, with that caveat in mind, but go outside if you can, get your feet in the grass, get your feet in the dirt. There's a lot to that, to being outside and to reconnecting with nature. And then not just reconnecting emotionally or spiritually, but also physically. It's also good for your microbiome to get dirty once in a while.
Yeah. So, yeah, what you're talking about literally is grounding, and that is incredibly good for our mental health as well. So, to that point, I'm thinking about seasonally where it might not be an option, that maybe on a sliding scale, at the very least, let sun hit your face, be looking out a window, step out onto a porch for like a few minutes, whatever you can do. But what you're also talking about, if you are able, is literally connecting with the earth and grounding, and that has incredible benefits.
Absolutely. Another thing that I have been thinking about a lot lately, especially as, I'm over 50, we have aging parents, and the things around our house that we're not using. How many of us have a set of dishes? Maybe not younger people, but, in our day, for you and me, Lisa, usually when you got married or you bought a house, whatever,
Thanks for throwing me
you
under the bus,
have,
Amber. I
I
appreciate
know,
that.
right?
Yes.
I'm not going to be here alone. I'm going to take you with me. Um, but we have like a nice set of dishes, right? Like we have like our china, like whatever it is,
Yeah.
holiday dishes, whatever it is. Or sometimes we have a piece of clothing that maybe it was something that was, I don't know, it was for a wedding, something like that, wear it, use it. Use those things. Don't save them. Don't save that perfume or that special lotion or whatever. Oh my gosh, use it. Just go for it. Just use it like whenever you can. Now the dishes is, then you got to wash them by hand, at least mine. So there's that.
But don't be afraid of that or consider
Yeah.
that. Or if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what the dishwasher will do to them. Well, you weren't
Yeah.
using them anyhow. So yes, I love that. And that's
100%.
actually one of the guidelines when I'm talking about decluttering, and especially when we deal with physical clutter and we deal with sentimental clutter, that I say that
Yes.
really what you want to be dealing with is, or what you want to be, I guess, considering when you're dealing with this is, how am I honoring this? And if it's sitting in a box in an attic, never to see the light of day, that's not honoring and using it, right? So using it, displaying it, distributing it among the family. So some of it might be decluttering, but it's also the idea of how are you integrating it into your life? And I've done that in many instances, trying to walk my own talk, and it really does lift the spirits. A great example that happened recently in our home is we were digging out, decluttering, cleaning out, and my father-in-law, who has passed on, had some like army jackets and some things like that, and my teens are wearing them. It fills our hearts every time we see that. And so these are items that are being used and loved. And we think of him and we talk about him when we do that.
That's a great example. I love it.
Don't save it for a special occasion. Every day is a special occasion.
Every day is a special occasion. Here's one that I have been engaging with recently. I'm going to encourage you to unfollow social media accounts
Yeah.
that are bothering you in any kind of way. And you don't even have to do any self examination. You don't need to therapize yourself and say, why, when I'm looking at this person's account, am I activated in a negative way? You don't have to do that. If it's happening, unfollow them. Unfollow them. And if you can't unfollow because maybe it's a family member or somebody in a community that you belong to, we've all got that, particularly right now, mute them. Find that mute button, mute them. You won't see what they're posting. They won't know that you muted them. So let go of that and don't try to worry so much about why you're doing it. It doesn't matter. Social media does not exist to make us feel good. So we have to carefully curate
Mm.
that space for ourselves.
Yes. Yes, 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 all the yeses. So this falls under the, decluttering toxic people or content, if you will. And to your point, we don't have to worry why. I mean, at some point, if that's something that you want to look into, if you're working with a therapist, if you want to ask, why do these things trigger me? If you want to be curious, great. You can certainly go down that route. But I love that you said that's not what this is about. What this is about is trying to find quick ways that are self-care. And I have actually done this a lot in many circumstances, especially lately. And here's another tip. Not only do you mute what they say, but if you find that they're engaging with you, let's say comment-wise, there are ways, especially like, for example, on Facebook, where you can post and you can limit who sees that post.
Yes. Yes. I'm a big fan of the close friends.
Mm-hmm.
I think on Instagram it's called close friends. Facebook it might be, or Facebook you can have so many groups, which I do. There's a family group and then there's a friend group and then you're only posting to that particular group. And then on Instagram, same thing. You can choose who's your close friends
Mm-hmm.
and then that actually shows up differently. So if you've ever seen that green circle around somebody's story, that means that that's a story they created for their close friends and you're on that list. I'll tell you something. That feels really awesome to be on somebody's close friends list,
It
truthfully.
does. Yes, it does. I love that. Great tip. Yes. So there's not only ways to mute so that you're not seeing what they're putting out into the world. And sometimes it's just as simple as there's not even anything, tragically toxic about it,
No,
but it's just
no.
that it's too much information coming at you. I could
Mm-hmm.
actually see that in the context of chronic illness of getting way too many like, oh, you should do this, you should do
Yes,
that, the
yes,
shoulds, right? And sometimes you
yes.
need to be like, no, I'm, it's a scientific experiment, N equals one. I'm one person here and I'm trying to figure this out for me and pay attention to my symptoms and what I'm doing. I can't have everybody out there telling me the next diet supplement thing I got to be doing. Right. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
because they will. Yeah,
with the best of intentions, sometimes I want to be clear. It's not everybody's out to get you, but sometimes it feels like it.
100%. But something that I have taken to asking people, if somebody reaches out to me and they want to discuss something, and then I might ask them, are you looking to just discuss this and get it out and away from yourself, or are you asking me for advice? And I'm okay with either. If you want advice, I'll give it. But if you tell me no, I would really prefer not to have any advice right now, but I would enjoy having a listening ear. And there are some people who they just don't know how to turn the advice giving off. And while I can appreciate that when I'm looking for somebody to, a handyman to work on my house, sometimes I just want to complain. I just want to complain. And I want somebody to say, oh, I'm so sorry you're experiencing that. And that's it,
Yep.
you know? So, yeah. So curating that social media in that way can be very helpful. And not anything against anybody, no shade to anybody. We all have our roles to play. And something that I learned from a psychologist in my space is that it is helpful for you to determine who amongst the people that you know fit into which of those categories. So
Yeah.
the advice giver is not the person who is going to say, "Oh, poor you," and, give you a little pat on the head and a gold star and a kiss on the forehead, maybe. So you need to identify who can do what for you in your life.
Right. Or people that can make the distinctions. And one other point I want to add is that, this doesn't have to be a forever thing. There are many times in a busier season of life, which I'm actually in currently, at the end of the school year in trying to support my children and their efforts, that I can actually handle less information. And
Yeah.
so I will do the snooze thing. You can snooze people for a
Yes.
period of time, and then that pops them back up in 30 days, and you're able to reassess. So again, you don't have to figure out necessarily why, and you don't have to tell them, and nobody needs to know other than you're giving yourself what you need, and you're also blocking what you don't need.
And don't apologize for it.
What a great suggestion.
All right. My next self-care is to stretch. Oh my gosh. We're not stretching. Like, stretch and do that in whatever way is comfortable and best for you. But remember, have you ever been scrolling social media and somebody says, "Hey, girl, lower your shoulders"? That gets me every single time. Why are my shoulders up around my ears all of the time? Let it out and give yourself a good stretch. Get up for a minute and stretch it out.
Good suggestion. And now I want to repost the thing I do periodically. I haven't done it in a while, where you breathe and take
Yeah.
your tongue from the roof of your mouth and lower the shoulders, all of those things. You're so right.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need a little reminder to do that. So. And then after you've carefully curated your social media, you know who's in it and who's not. And you should think about when you are struggling with whatever it is, connect with someone who knows you well. Okay. And for me, I often say this is that I will send a text to somebody that I know is going to answer me.
Ah,
Because we all have those people that are like, we love them, but maybe they don't get back right away, whatever, no shade. But I have my reliable people. And if I just need to connect with somebody real quick, I know who that is. And I can text them and I know that they're probably before I've finished getting out my 2 or 3 texts in a row, they're already typing something back. You've got somebody like that. And you should reach out to them and keep that connection because you are that for one another, probably. And that is so helpful to just connect with somebody. I think we forget about that. We're looking to social media to be our connection with people. It's not really what it is. We need that one-on-one connection with the people that know us well. So my next one is right smack dab in the middle of what you do every single day, and that is decluttering. Oh my gosh. And physical clutter, yes. But also, let's think about something that I've been doing recently with a kid that just graduated from high school. Why are his baby photos still on my phone? I mean, maybe keep a few of them. I don't need 100, right? Organize those photos. You take 20. One of them's good. Keep the one. Unsubscribe to the things you aren't reading, you aren't using. Get rid of clothing you're not wearing. Like so many little things. And it doesn't have to be a major all day thing. I sometimes am very black and white about this kind of stuff. So I'm like, if I can't organize the closet from top to bottom, then I'm not even going to do anything. And I'm coming around to this idea of my future self is that, yeah, well, hey, if I get rid of one single thing every day by the end of the month, that's 30 things. Then I get one of the vets organizations to come by my house and pick up the box of those things that I'm not using anymore. And they can go on to live another life with somebody who needs them. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a small thing every day. And that tiny amount of effort every single day adds up. And this is a tougher one. So it's near the end of my list. It's a more time-intensive, difficult one.
but your point is well taken that you can do it in smaller bits. You can consider subcategories of things like I'm going to declutter only my cookbooks or only my fiction books, or decluttering 1 or 2 drawers in your dresser and the items related to that. Maybe go through the socks. Like, how many socks do I have in there? And I'm like, I never wear these. So random,
Yes.
And you think, oh, what difference will it make? It will make a huge difference, which is why I talk about it all the time. And here's A fun little tip, if you do have the option for a truck to come by and pick up clutter, if you are in an area that does that, I have lived in areas that do that and also not. But if you do have that option, go ahead and book a time now, even when you're not ready, and it will give you a built-in deadline.
And I do that literally. There is somebody coming by my house probably every month because I do, as you said, I will schedule it. And then that will be like, all right, everybody, on Sunday, we're all going to spend an hour. I'm going to give you a box, whatever. You're going to clean some stuff out. And with kids, it's constant, right? There's always something to get
There's
rid
always
of.
an option.
There's always something. And like I've been in my house 16 years, stuff just piles up. Having that built-in deadline, as you say, is actually super, super helpful. And I think a lot of people don't realize that there are organizations that will come by and pick the things up. Hopefully, if you do live in an area that will do that. And then the effort is so minimal. Really, you just have to gather it and put it in a box and put it outside. It's a great option. And then, we're talking about decluttering. And then I'm going to put this in the most broadest possible sense, is to make like Elsa, let things go, let it go, whatever it is. Do you really need to respond to somebody on social media that you don't agree with? If somebody is asking you for help with something, do they really need a response? Or can you say no to that? Letting certain things go, examining a little bit about why you're doing them. And if they really don't need to be done, let it go. Let the urge pass. I always say I don't argue with people on social media. That's my policy. I've had it for 20 years. I don't argue with people on the internet. It's not worth it. And so whenever I find myself getting worked up into a little bit of a lather, I just remind myself, I don't argue with people. There's no purpose to it.
It's the idea of a waste of energy, right? I love it. Let it go. Let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah. Anytime you can. And I will say this too, is that sometimes you can get into old habits, or you can be inclined, or you can get riled up. Ask me how I know.
Yeah.
And I will have statements that I say out loud or to my husband where I will catch myself and I go, sweetie, I have no business being in the comments right now.
I love that so much.
And then I will walk away.
Walk away.
Because it'll be like, what are you doing in there? Get out of there. And so that's a care partner right there.
Yeah. Don't read the comments. And then also, do you need to be in the comments?
Yeah. I have no business being in the... You can feel free, by the way. You're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I do that. Feel free to go ahead and just message me and be like, Lisa, I had no business being in the comments today. And I'll be like, stay out of there. So, yeah, love it.
Right. But, if you want to comment on something that Lisa is doing or I'm doing, go right ahead.
Well, hopefully we're not the toxic ones. I mean, if there's a reason you need to unfollow me because my humor is like a bit much for you, we weren't meant to hang out anyhow. So it's all good. It's all good.
That's so funny. Yeah. And to that end, my last two things here are more difficult. Not everyone is going to be able to do them, but I'm putting them out there anyway to consider, and under the self-care bucket, which I think people might not consider them as. And the first one is to volunteer. As parents, we're constantly being asked to volunteer for things. Yeah, you got to say no to that sometimes. But being in a room with like-minded people moving towards a goal, that is something that is going to help you emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and sometimes those things translate to physically helping you. So especially if you're in a space where you're feeling frustrated by something that you perceive to be an injustice, I guarantee you're not the only person that feels that way. Find those people that feel the same way, link arms with them, make change together. Okay.
So that was 10, and you're giving us a bonus one. I love that. I love that about you.
You're keeping track. I love it.
You know I am. So what's number 11?
All right, this one's really way out there, okay? And somebody's going to have a visceral reaction and say, I can't do that, okay? All right, but here it is. Get a financial advisor. This is a big one, and people are going to say to themselves, I don't have any finances. I don't need a financial advisor. I promise you that you do. There are low or no cost ways to engage with a financial advisor, such as one that is already working at an institution that you're doing your banking with. You have your IRA or your 401k with. They have folks there that's their job, or you can
Mhm.
hire someone. Ask around. I bet you know people that are using a financial advisor and they just never talk to you about it because we don't talk about money. Nobody wants to talk about money. And I'll tell you, yeah, my husband and I have a financial advisor. Is really a great thing that we did for ourselves, our current selves, our future selves, and our kids. And so we're contacting them regularly about the decisions that we're making in our lives. And they are able to give us a gut check and sometimes point us in the right direction. And so it's a little bit out there when you're talking about self care, but I'm thinking of hopefully one day the Amber that retires. And so hopefully I'm doing things today that are going to help her out.
I'm going to add 2 points to the last 2 points that you made. One is when it comes to volunteering, again, it's just like anything else that we talk about. The littlest thing can make a difference. If you are naturally a writer or you are naturally a graphic designer or you are comfortable just talking with people randomly, there are opportunities where you don't necessarily have to be going and spending full days or doing walks or big fundraisers or things
No.
like that. There's so many ways that you can help in your community. I sit on 2 boards, one for the library and one for our local Cornell Cooperative Extension in our county. So I do attend meetings and things like that, but I'm connecting with people, like you said. It's very positive. It's challenging sometimes when I'm like, oh, I have to go to that meeting. But when I'm there and the people are there, we're making a difference. And there's a very real thing where when you take action, you reduce anxiety. That's a very real response. So even though it feels like taking that action can feel overwhelming when you are feeling sick, when you are overwhelmed, when you are stressed, pushing a little bit to do that, you're absolutely right. It can be self-care because it can fill you up in a different way you didn't know you needed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then when it comes to the financial advisor, the way that I see it, the way you're describing it, first of all, there are opportunities where you don't have to pay for one because you can have free consults. There are those out there that you can start with where they are like commission based. That could be a starting point to at least practice having the conversation, at least see what they have to say. And to your point, I think practicing that conversation and getting ideas and being pointed in the right direction doesn't mean you have to go in that direction, but having that advice can also set you up for being able to afford more of the self-care that may cost money. So it feeds itself, so to speak. It can be a very positive feedback loop, if you will. With that, oh my goodness, we could talk for so long, but we want to be mindful of all of these ideas that we can take with us and just try one. That's it. So with that, let's get to our wrap up. And I will say, is there anything else that's on your heart or mind that you want to share about this topic as we wrap up the episode?
Just that I recognize that, especially with chronic illness, there are so many days, so many times when you feel like you can't engage with anything and all of this is just a bunch of blah, blah, blah to you. But remember that you won't always feel that way. You will feel better one day. And then these things are going to be there waiting for you.
I love that. Now, let us know where we can find you online and connect to you, especially if we would like more support with regard to IBD.
Absolutely. So my platform is called About IBD. And something that I did for my future self the long, long ago was to get all of my social media under About IBD. So you will find me on the Facebook, the Instagrams, Blue Sky, Threads, X, Twitter, all of those things under About IBD, podcast of the same name, About IBD, and then also my website, aboutibd.com.
And we'll definitely have that in the show notes to make it easy. And of course, if you follow me, you can find Amber because I'm connected to her in all of those places as well.
Yep.
All right, let's have a truly rapid wrap up. Have a little fun here. We are looking at things that inspire positively living for you, and I'm hoping you'll share with us a song, a saying, and a resource. What do you have for us?
All right, the song. The song was easy. Song is "The Trick is to Keep Breathing" by a band called Garbage. They've been around for a long time. Lead singer's name is Shirley Manson. She is my forever girl crush. And the song it's about just keeping moving. And then sometimes it's just about breathing. It's about that's what you can do for that time. So just keep breathing. So that's something that I go back to all the time.
Love that. It's great advice and a great band. Love Garbage.
So much.
How about a saying?
A saying. All right, this is a long one, Lisa. So sorry about that.
Go for
And it's
it.
long enough that I have to read it. So I'm a big science fiction fan. I read Dune for the first time when I was 16 years old and immediately fell in love. So a mantra that Frank Herbert put into Dune is something that I go back to, and I'm just gonna read it. It's a direct quote. It is called the mantra against fear. So it goes, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past me, I will turn to see fear's path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. And I do think about that a lot, especially when I'm undergoing a procedure that is either physically painful or embarrassing or uncomfortable. I will remember that this will pass, and I will take that fear and think about it, actually visualize it passing through me and beyond me and going somewhere else because I don't need it. I'm letting go of that fear.
That's beautiful. Love that. Okay. And a resource. It could be a book, an app, just anything. It could relate to what we're talking about or just simply something that makes your life better.
Yeah. So, Lisa, I'm going to make a plug for your public library. And a lot of people don't realize how many digital resources that libraries have available these days. So I want to point out in particular Libby for your ebooks and audiobooks, Hoopla for videos and then also audiobooks. And I don't even know what all else is in there, but I use it a lot for audiobooks. And my library has something called Free Gal Music where I can download music. So all of these things I get through my local library. I know libraries have different things available in different areas, but explore your library, talk to the librarians there. I guarantee you they will absolutely want to tell you about everything that they have available. People with chronic illness are often impacted financially. And so your library resources can be a great way to still engage with movies, music, books, the things that you love, but you don't have to spend the money on them because guess what? You already pay taxes.
That is such good information. And I know with our local library that we are very mindful of those to provide resources for those who cannot afford it. They are wonderful resources for ideas, for things that you need, for all of the resources that you mentioned. And may I add, they are also wonderful places to volunteer. And that's a great way when you're there and you spend more time to not only give back, but to learn more about the resources and the opportunities. And as a bonus, last but definitely not least, let's share a little gratitude today. What or who contributes to positively living for you, Amber?
I have gratitude for so many things in my life. And lately, I have such gratitude for my friends who get me through so many things. They're all my care partners as well. And so friendship isn't something that just happens. You have to work at it. And the work that you put in keeping those connections with people definitely pays off for everybody involved. So I know I have friends, we have kids the same age, and then, that's a whole nother level of joy that you get to experience as well. So the friendships, maintaining friendships.
Yeah, here's to friendships. Oh my goodness, they help us through.
Yeah.
I agree. And also, adding my gratitude, I'm grateful for you that we've connected, that we've been able to collaborate, that I've been able to invite you here. You shared so much wisdom with us today. And I'm grateful for everything that you do and for shining your light so bright in this world and sharing it with us today.
Thank you, Lisa. It has been my extreme pleasure to get to know you. It took me a long time to reach out to you and ask you to come on my show. I really had to work up to it because I had such admiration and respect for what you do. And I can't tell you how amazing it is to see your episodes pop up in my Overcast every week. It is such a pleasure and I enjoy it. And now it's on a completely different level because I actually know you. I'm like, I know her. And it is so fabulous. So thank you so very much.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback or questions, you can find me through the Connect page of the positivelyproductive.com website. And if you're looking for any of the resources mentioned here, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.